Friday edition, orange and blue today, and it's Shrine Bowl time. Andrew Mason, you and I are over the moon, buddy, because this is a favorite time of year for both of us.
It's a favorite time of year for both, and even though the top spotlight prospect at the Shrine Bowl isn't going to be on the Broncos' radar for obvious reasons of positional need, we'll get into it here, Cease. I really like this D-line class at the Shrine, and that's a low-key, bubbling below the surface, long-term need for the Broncos when we start considering expiring contracts.
Right. It's going to be the Shedeur show down there in Dallas, where we are either there or on our way when you're watching this show here on our YouTube channel. Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason, orange and blue today. Since we're going to start with Shedeur, because it is the Shedeur show, what does he have to prove, Mace? I think with the Cam Ward kind of surge of he's got all the momentum, I think Shedeur has a monumental week in front of him. I know it's just practice. I know it's an all-star game, but the mannerisms, the interviews, the practice, the throws, his body language, I think everyone's going to be watching Shedeur with a magnifying glass.
Yeah, and they're going to be watching the things like you mentioned, the interviews, you're talking about the body language, how he interacts with his teammates. The other thing I think we're going to be keeping an eye on here, of course, you've got NFL coaching in both the Shrine and the Senior Bowl. It's not the full staff like it used to be at the Senior Bowl, but again, it's another group of up-and-coming coaches that are going to be down there. So you're running NFL concepts, and what I'm going to be watching from Shedeur Sanders on the field is how quickly he processes and how quickly he gets rid of the ball, because the one thing that could push him down below Cam Ward, at least when we're talking strictly about on the field stuff, is the hero ball aspects, which can sometimes lead to some big plays, but look, you're not always going to have Travis Hunter to bail you out, and you're not going to have college level defenders to take advantage of. If he drifts back, keeping a play alive, if he shows those same habits, every NFL team looking at a quarterback high in the draft is going to probably have some pause and say that he's not going to be viable unless we can cure him of this, because sometimes he's a 25-yard sack waiting to happen.
Right. And you can't be that in the NFL. And with Shedeur, Mace, this will remind me, and all respect towards a Jalen Hurts. I remember Steven Montez was at that game. Jordan Love was at that game. But when we saw Justin Herbert, it was like clear. And that was at the Senior Bowl. But it was like Herbert and then the rest of them. And there were days when Montez looked pretty good, better than Jalen Hurts. But I think it should be Shedeur, head and shoulders above everybody else. We're talking about a potential number one overall pick that we get to watch in Dallas. So I think God bless all the other quarterbacks there. Yeah. But Shedeur should be like well above all of them.
Realistically, when you look at the quarterbacks at the Shrine, most of them you're talking about are backup types. A good example of somebody who I think, and I'm not just saying this because of his alma mater, but I think could project as a very nice backup in the NFL is Brady Cook out of Mizzou going down there. But Brady Cook is, at this point, not long-term starter material. Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. He's someone who's got some intriguing traits, but I think you're talking about him, round 5, perhaps? Sure. Brady Cook, probably round 6, round 7. Cam Miller out of North Dakota State. There's certainly some upside to him. There's even a quarterback coming down there from out of the Canadian college football ranks. Basically, Shedeur Sanders went to the Shrine. The next tier of quarterbacks went to the Senior Bowl, and then we're talking about kind of back end of day 3 into the undrafted pool as far as the quarterbacks that Shedeur is surrounded by. So he does need to be at the head of the class by some distance, or there are going to be questions, including questions about choosing the Shrine over the Senior Bowl. Now it's a little bit like turning the Titanic around, basically trying to change the trends, but we're still at a point where when a top prospect goes to the Shrine, it's newsworthy. It's newsworthy when Shedeur Sanders and a lot of his Buffs teammates go to the Shrine as a group. It was newsworthy a couple of years ago when Zay Flowers went to the Shrine. It's newsworthy that a guy like Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, defensive lineman in the second round, he's at the Shrine and not the Senior Bowl. Things are starting to change a little bit, but the Shrine still doesn't have full roster parity with the Senior Bowl at this point.
Yeah, and another thing that we get to check in with, because it looks like we got two Miami receivers there, Sam Brown, Jacoby George, both of the Miami receivers, because they're going to catch passes from Shedeur, and you and I can monitor them, compare it to their film, because they caught passes from Cam Ward.
Yeah.
So that's always an interesting, like, what do you think? Because this is going to be the debate at the top of the draft. Are you taking the potential of Cam Ward as a running quarterback with a big arm? Or are you taking the pocket passer, almost kind of a throwback quarterback in a way, to Shedeur Sanders with amazing pass placement, amazing touch as a passer, but not the runner, the supreme athlete that Cam Ward is?
Yeah, and the thing is, sometimes Shedeur Sanders, the way he plays and the way he extends plays and moves around, it's almost like he wants to be that, yet that's when he gets in some trouble. If he is 1-2 look throw, and if he can process that quickly, he can be a very effective pocket passer. And that's the thing. If Shedeur Sanders works, this is not, we're talking about, could he be a dual threat guy? No. Shedeur Sanders is going to operate in the pocket. It's going to be with his arm. The legs are not something that's even much of a value add really for Shedeur Sanders compared to some other quarterback prospects in recent years. It's all about the pocket. It's all about his arm.
Yeah, it's all about the arm. It's all about making plays in the National Football League. And the great thing for Shedeur, he's going to have a couple of receivers down there.
Yeah.
Jimmy Horn Jr., I know on my list. I know he's on your list. You said yesterday you love LeJohntay Wester. Yeah. And Wester, kind of that underneath slot demon, if you will, super quick, super fast, makes plays, really ferocious with the ball. So, if we're talking about the performance of Shedeur and what does he have to prove, well, he's going to have his guys with him. And I think that can really help settle him down, because the great thing, and maybe we don't get this, Mace, but you and I love all-star games because you've never played with these guys before. You got to go play with these guys. And by the way, the NFL world is watching you. So there's a bit of that first day. It's like they're kind of getting used to each other. Shedeur's not necessarily going to have that with these two.
Honestly, because of having Wester and Jimmy Horn Jr. down there, I expect some dazzling stuff on the first day. Are my expectations too high? I don't think they are, given the fact that he's going to have an advantage that, by and large, other quarterbacks in the all-star game, all-star practice format do not have. So between the distance that he has in terms of his own potential compared to a lot of others down there, I mean, the Shrine is still kind of more of a diamond in the rough type of game. I mean, you're looking for guys that are going to jump out, and we're going to talk about guys who rise, but a lot of the risers we're going to talk about are going to be going from day 3 to maybe being in the late day 2 conversation, which, don't get me wrong, it's really important. And it's part of the reason why the Broncos are sitting in the position they are, is because they've nailed some of these picks. But you're still, realistically, Shedeur Sanders ought to be the best player on the field.
Yeah, he should be the best player. He should have the most success. And what's, I guess, good and bad, if I get to one of my favorite players, and Taj Brooks here from Texas Tech. He's a power back, and Mace, you and I say it every year. It's worth repeating, though. Mm-hmm. It's so difficult to tell, especially with Brooks and his skill set, which is power. Yeah, it's like there's no tackling. You know what I mean? It's practice. We're going to see what his foot frequency is like. Maybe there's someone who gives him a shoulder. Maybe there's some contact balance we can take away. But unfortunately, the Broncos shopping list includes running back. We talked about that on Thursday's show and the mock drafts, and what Ashton Genty, or are you going to take Devin Neal or whatever, Marion Hampton in the second round? Well, Brooks being a late round guy, we're not really going to tell much about him other than to put eyes on him, look at his feet, look at his body type. And we don't really get to see his game because it's practice and there's no live tackling. But I'll be interested in Taj Brooks.
I'll be interested in him. I'm interested in some of the tight ends as well. Like, for instance, caught up a little bit in the shuffle of some of the tight ends that were on display in the college football playoff, but you're going to get a chance to see Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame, who I think in an offense that wasn't really tailored toward the tight end had some decent production. Can he kind of carry that forward? The guy from the lower levels that I'm going to want to see something out of, and he got the invite, is a 6'6", 235-pounder. So certainly we're talking about Donald Parham-like frame a little bit shorter, but Carter Runyon out of Towson is going to be down there, and he's one that I'm intrigued enough by to where I want to see how he handles this level. And that's the thing. When you're talking about guys coming from the FCS level, this is going to be a step up. What do they have? This is sort of the first chance for some of those guys to prove themselves. So I'm always looking at the lower rung, the FCS, some group of 5, Division II, Division III type prospects as well. And we know George Payton likes those types of guys too.
Yeah, he's got an eye for that. And the great thing about this, Mace, is it's a job interview.
Yeah.
These guys show up and they're going to have different helmets on. But if you're a small school guy and you can shine in these sorts of games, like that's how you can start to make a name. The Quinn Miners of, the recent history of Senior Bowls, Shrine Bowls, where we see small school prospects with big time ability. And you love to see it, man. And you want to see more of it. And the Shrine Bowl, it kind of specializes in Canadian prospects, in small school prospects. These are diamonds in the rough, but you know what? There might be some diamonds here.
There certainly might be. I mean, you just take a look around the roster at some of the schools that are represented. I mentioned Towson. You've got let's see here. You've got Lindenwood, Minnesota Duluth, Middlebury. I believe that's up in Vermont, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Okay.
Cal Poly out there. I'll say this. There are fewer prospects from lower levels this year than in some other years at the Shrine, which I think is interesting. I think there's something to this. I think it's all about the transfer portal.
Yep.
And the fact that if you are standing out at a lower level, it's very easy to move up and test yourself, right? So what we see some of the guys that are in the Shrine and Senior Bowls that were at lower levels that moved up. I mean, a good example is if Adam Troutman were going through college football today at the University of Dayton, would Troutman have stayed at Dayton?
No.
He would have probably been somewhere in the Big Ten by his senior year, and people would have had an eye on him. And it might, who knows, it might have helped his process. So it's a little bit of a different environment than you've had. But you look around at, for example, I mean, you see obviously the 2 CU safeties that are going to be down there. I mean, although I don't know that much is going to be thought of from Buff Nation about Shedeur Sanders. But you've got like Mike Smith Jr. out of Eastern Kentucky. So there's still a smattering of small school guys, but not as many as we've seen in the past.
Yeah, not as many as we've seen. And hey, I think that's transfer portal. And I also think it's the rivalry that we get between the Shrine and the Senior. Yes. The Shrine is on the come up. Getting Shedeur Sanders is a huge get for that game. And it's kind of and it's a friendly back and forth, but it's kind of a little poke in the chest of the Senior Bowl of like, well, you got Cam Ward, but we got Shedeur Sanders. So I think there's also that. Eric Alco's done great work behind the scenes, and it's very scout friendly. It's very agent friendly. A new setup with practice this year, so we'll see, what kind of access we have. But I know last year, everyone was raving about the Shrine Bowl and the way it was carried on. And we know at the Senior Bowl, whether, there's just issues with Mobile, and it's never going to move. It's never going to change.
Yeah, of course, last year they took practice to the Star, which is the Cowboys training facility, and their, I believe it's 12,000 seat indoor practice facility, and it was fantastic. Remember, it was a little cool down there for that weekend, so you went inside. It was climate controlled comfort. You weren't worried about the conditions. You just focus on the ball going on the field. Whereas you go to Mobile, and if it's a rainy day, at least to media, practice is closed off because there is no indoor facility. There's a facility that has a roof. It's basically this carport type of thing.
Right.
It's open. It's a big, so like you can't use it in a thunderstorm. So it's this big carport on the University of South Alabama campus, but there's not enough room for media and scouts and all that. And so if it's raining, we just end up sitting in our hotels watching the stream of practice, which isn't, I'm sorry, it's not enough, because I want to watch certain things at practice. You want to watch certain things at practice. So that's why, like last year when the Shrine took it inside to the Star, I was like, yeah, this is great. Don't have to worry about weather or anything like that. We can just focus on the task at hand and watching these prospects. And so I'm curious to see what it ends up being like logistically. I mean, we're getting this at the end of the show because this is very much kind of inside baseball type of stuff.
Yes.
But I will say this on the Shrine. Eric Alco's done a tremendous job. I do want them to kind of get settled into something that is the same from year to year. Like, this is part of the thing that NFL people do like, is routine. It's one of the reasons why whenever there's the notion of moving the combine, you get tremendous internal pushback from everyone, from coaches, agents, scouts, medical people, PR people, the whole thing. Anytime that idea is floated, it's like, no. And thus inertia, at least for now, keeps the combine in Indianapolis. I would like to see the Shrine get to a point where it's routine. And so hopefully this thing that they've got, where they're going to be out at the University of North Texas for practice on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Hopefully, I hope it works and that they stick with it. I mean, I would have been more inclined to stick with the Star, but maybe the Cowboys had their objections. The game is actually going to be at Jerry World, so the Cowboys are still involved with it, just not to the degree they were when they were hosting the practices last year as well. By the way, another plot line that's kind of percolating is, what if the Cowboys don't yet have their coach? Now, we're recording this on Thursday, so maybe this is resolved by Friday, and if so, I apologize, but
might be Brian Schottenheimer by the time you and I are in Dallas.
It might be, but there was one report of Schottenheimer, and there was another report saying, okay, maybe not. So what if the practices are getting underway, Deion Sanders down there with his guys, and still some speculation focusing on him as a potential Cowboys head coach?
I think we should see Deion down there.
Yeah.
He's got his place down there, so it's like all of the Colorado guys are there showing his support. If I'm Jerry, even if you want Brian Schottenheimer, I wait a few days and just let the Deion thing percolate a little bit, because it had talk shows pretty excited.
I don't think Brian Schottenheimer is going to excite many talk shows down there in the Metroplex.
Yeah, I don't know if that fires up Cowboys fans, but we're orange and blue today, not whatever. Silver and blue today? What would the Cowboys show be?
Blue and silver, although the pants they wear with their white jerseys are considered seafoam. By the way, if you really dive into the details of the Cowboys uniforms, they are a mess. Like, it's an iconic uniform, but it's a mess. Like, it's royal blue numbers and then navy blue stripes on the helmet. Like, it doesn't, like, a lot of things don't make sense and don't match in their uniform at all. But they're never going to change because it's something truly, it's an iconic look. But it's like, if you really start diving into this, like, all these pieces just don't fit.
It's an iconic look, and it's a little bit of a mess. That's for sure.
Unlike the Raiders, it's a very smooth, streamlined, unified look. It's consistent. I mean, you can hate the Raiders, but say they have a good uniform.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This is us talking Shrine Bowl. We're going to have Saturday shows, Sunday shows. Monday we'll be traveling, but we'll put some stuff in the can for you. And this is the 100th year of the Shrine Bowl. And Mace, by my calculation, you and I have been to 1/5 of these games. Think about that. It's the 100th year.
You have. I haven't been to as many of the
You're not too far. You're not too far behind, brother. Like, this, other than the year of COVID, this is my 19th year in a row, because they didn't have a Shrine Bowl in 2021, top of my head. So
Yeah, for a while, like I only went to the Senior Bowl and not the Shrine Bowl because some of it was the Broncos would have deep playoff runs. There is a Shrine Bowl Hall of Fame, by the way. And to kind of tell you, like, it's about for players who were in the game, obviously. So Craig Morton, Broncos quarterback from 77 through 82, he's in the Shrine Bowl Hall of Fame.
Shannon Sharp's got to be in there, right?
I'm looking it up right now here. Hold, please. Steve Atwater is in the Shrine Bowl Hall of Fame. He was inducted 10 years ago.
Very good.
Let's see here. Shannon Sharp is not in the Shrine Bowl Hall of Fame.
Really? Because he was an attendee. Now, I wasn't there. That was before I started going, but
he was named to the Shrine Bowl All-Century team.
Okay. Soon to be Shrine Bowl Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp. How about that?
That is actually really interesting.
Tom Brady was at this game.
Yes.
Walter Payton was at this game. Like some big time names as well, for sure.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Like I think we got. By the way, the All-Century team does also include Steve Atwater. But yep. Yep, there he is. Shannon Sharp, 1990, out of Savannah State. All on the All-Century team for the Shrine. Wes Welker was on the All-Century team for the Shrine game as well. For the Shrine Bowl, I should say.
There you go.
Jeff Saturday, who said some comments that Broncos fans didn't like. So yeah. And then some great players. Larry Allen, not a Bronco, but somebody that Sean Payton thinks very highly of based on that was one of his story time days. And then I'd be remiss not to mention someone on the All-Century team for the Shrine. Certain number 7, John Elway, the Duke of Denver. Of course, that was back when the Shrine game was in the San Francisco Bay Area. And it was back then, like there was a time the Shrine and the Senior Bowl were basically equals for a while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In early to mid 80s was right there in that time frame. And the Shrine, which would play the game at Stanford Stadium, and John Elway, of course, being a Stanford alum, the Shrine was not going to let John Elway get away. And indeed, he did play. He did play in the Shrine game back in the day.
So many stars of tomorrow we get to see for you today. For me, I'm in the air right now.
Yes. So I'm proud, but if everything goes well travel wise, I'll be at this time. I will be in Dallas, in the Dallas area, in the Metroplex, waiting for you to come in the air tonight.
Nice. Well, that is a wrap.
Oh God, I phrased that. That's phrasing.
Phrasing. Is phrasing still a thing?
Oh boy, that was not good on my part. Whoops.
Yeah, we'll wrap up the show for this time. But again, Saturday show, Sunday show. Probably going to have some clips, some real quick hitters on social networking. So make sure to follow us there as well. But Mace, before we're out of here, we need our help on YouTube. How can folks help us out?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss
a vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at C Salami saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Stay frosty.